Many believe being unstoppable is a matter of luck, genetics, or having a perfect life without obstacles. They think some people are made of different material, stronger, braver, more capable, but the truth is different. What turns a man into someone unstoppable is not what he has, but how he thinks. It is not what he faces, but what he decides internally in the face of what he faces. I, Brian Tracy, have seen ordinary men become extraordinary when they develop a steel mindset, a mind trained to resist doubt, to act with discipline, to rise each time he falls. It is not about not feeling fear, it is about not letting fear control him. You do not need to have a perfect life to become powerful. You need to build your character. And that starts with your thoughts. Because when you master your mind, you master your world. And that mastery is not improvised. It is trained, it is decided, and it starts today. Being unstoppable does not mean never falling, never doubting, never feeling fear. Being unstoppable means having a mind so firm, so disciplined, so trained, that even when everything is shaking on the outside, you keep advancing on the inside, because true strength is not measured in moments of comfort, but in how you act when everything else collapses. And that capacity to remain firm amidst chaos is not a gift reserved for a few. It is the result of a mindset built every day. A mindset that does not negotiate, mindset that does not negotiate with its excuses, that does not wait for perfect conditions, that does not depend on motivation but on commitment. And every man can develop it if he is willing to do the internal work many avoid. The steel mindset begins with a single decision to stop being a slave to your emotions. Because if every time you are tired, frustrated, or insecure you abandon your goals, then you will never build anything solid. Emotions are real, but they are not orders. They are signals, not instructions. A man with a weak mind acts according to how he feels. A man with a steel mind acts according to what he decided. That difference marks destinies. Because while one repeats patterns of failure, the other builds his life even with fear, even with doubts, even when no one else believes in him. To build that mindset, you have to start training yourself every day, not in the big moments, but in the everyday. Getting up when the alarm rings, even if you don't feel like it. Finishing what you started, even if it has become uncomfortable. Saying no to what weakens you, even if it is the easiest. Each of those decisions is a brick in your internal fortitude. Do not wait to feel ready. Start acting like the man you want to be, because when you discipline yourself to do what you must, no matter how you feel, you are forging the mind that will take you to any goal you set. The steel mind is not born. It is built with habits, with focus, with direction, and it all begins with that first decision you can make today to stop surrendering to the small, because if you conquer the small, you become invincible to the big. And that is the true beginning of being unstoppable. Most men want extraordinary results without having to bear the weight of silent effort. They want strength without pain, confidence without discipline, advancement without discomfort. But that mindset keeps them fragile, because the mind does not harden in comfortable moments. It is forged exactly in the instance when everything inside you wants to stop, give up, yield. It is in that moment where the fork appears. Either you remain the same man as always, or you take a step toward the version you have always wanted to be. Because the breaking point is not physical, it is mental. Your body can do more than you think. It is your mind that tells you no, that whispers for you to rest, that it is not worth it, that it is not the time. And if you listen to that voice, you lose. Not just the day, you lose your identity. Because every time you yield to that internal voice of weakness, you are teaching your mind it cannot trust you. A steel mind is not a mind that does not doubt. It is a mind that knows what to do when doubt appears. It is a mind that has been trained through sacrifice, coherence, and persistence. You are not going to wake up one day with absolute confidence. Confidence is built when you do what you said you would, when you keep your word, even when no one is watching, when you lift your head on difficult days and decide to act from vision, not from emotion, because everything worthwhile demands a price. And that price is not just hard work, it is internal discipline, mental order, emotional direction, and that is practiced every day. Start with what you can control, your schedule, your habits, your words, your thoughts. Every time you say, "I can't today," you are weakening. But every time you say, I am going to do it anyway, you are strengthening, even if your legs tremble, even if motivation is zero, even if no one supports you, even if you feel alone, because that moment of struggle is the gym of your character. And if you endure it, if you go through it without yielding, something inside you changes. The mind begins to respect you because it realizes laziness, fear, or doubt no longer command. Now you command. And when you command, the course of your life stops being random. It begins to have direction and clear direction. Sustained each day turns you into that kind of man others admire in silence. The one who does not talk much but advances. The one who does not complain but fulfills. The one who does not pretend but transforms. And the best part is that this mind does not need perfection. It needs practice. It needs you to choose again and again not to fail yourself. Not others, yourself, because if you get used to disappointing, and the best, yourself, justifying yourself, lying to yourself, then on the outside you may look strong, but inside you will remain fragile, and when the big test comes, because it always comes, you will break. But if day after day you train, even in the small, even in silence, when that test arrives, it will not crush you, it will reveal you. Because a steel mind is not one that never falls, it is one that never surrenders. It is one that falls and gets up more focused, firmer, more aware of who it is, and who it is, no longer willing to be again. An unstoppable mind is built through mastery of internal dialogue, not external noise, not the motivation found in a video, not the applause of others. It is what you tell yourself when no one is watching, what you repeat in your head when everything goes wrong, when you're alone, when nothing seems to advance, because there, in that internal space, is where most surrender, not in reality, but in the mind. They tell themselves they cannot. They have failed before. It is not worth trying again. They fill with logical arguments, because therein they fill with logical arguments, to justify their paralysis, but they are just lies wrapped in reason, lies your mind repeats, because it has not been trained for the opposite, because for years it has lived under the programming of doubt, of fear, of I am not enough. And until you confront that voice, you will remain its slave. You have to learn to interrupt that dialogue. You have to break that pattern. Not with empty phrases, but with affirmations backed by action. Because it is not enough to tell yourself you can. You have to prove it to yourself. You have to act even if the mind screams the opposite. Because every action contrary to your old narrative is a rewrite, a new groove in your brain, a new identity forming in real time. And if you do it every day, your mind will start to change its voice. It will no longer be the voice of the internal saboteur. It will be the voice of the strategist, the warrior, the architect, the man who knows who he is because he has proven it with facts. Control of your internal dialogue is what keeps you in the game when others get off, when others abandon, when others justify themselves, because what separates you is not your talent. It is your daily conversation, what you tell yourself on days where nothing seems to move. It is what you think when progress is not visible. It is what you decide when everything in you wants to return to the known. But instead of fleeing, you breathe. You remind yourself of your purpose and advance. Not because it is easy, but because there is no option to go back, because you have already decided who you want to be, and because that decision, though it does not solve everything instantly, gives you the power to face each day with the certainty that you do not need to feel ready, you only need to be willing. And being willing is not something emotional. It is a posture. It is an internal code. It is a commitment that is not negotiated based on weather, tiredness, or circumstances. It is you telling yourself every day, even if I am afraid, I go. Even if I doubt, I act. Even if I fall, I get up more focused. That is the mindset that makes you unstoppable because you no longer live according to your mood. You live according to your vision. And a sustained, defended, protected vision ends up dragging your reality toward it. That is how powerful a firm mind is, a mind that has been trained to lead itself, because in the end the greatest leadership you can exercise is over your own thoughts. Master that and the rest will be inevitable. A steel mind is not forged in theory, it is built in daily practice. And one of the most powerful and least popular practices is maintaining focus when no one demands it, because it is easy to be disciplined when there is external pressure, when there is a deadline, when someone is watching. But true character is demonstrated when no one is observing, when there are no immediate consequences, When you could slow down, justify yourself, leave it for tomorrow. And yet you decide to do it today. That kind of focus repeated every day creates a type of strength that is not seen, but felt. An internal energy that sustains you. When motivation is gone, when excuses appear, when everything around seems to invite you to stop, you cannot have an unstoppable mind if you allow yourself to live distracted. Every interruption you accept without questioning, every minute you give without intention, every decision you postpone for comfort, is training your mind to scatter. And a scattered mind is a weak mind. That is why one of the bravest acts you can do each day is to consciously choose what you will focus on, what you will ignore, what you will eliminate, because focus is a filter, and that filter separates the man who survives from the man who advances. It is not about doing more, it is about doing what counts and defending it as if your life depended on it, because it truly does. And if this message is awakening something inside you, something that had been asleep or hidden, subscribe, now not to receive more content, but to remain firm on this path. Because here, every word, every phrase, every teaching is designed to strengthen you from within, to remind you that you are not alone in this process, that there is main due that you are not alone in this process, a community of men who, like you, have already decided not to live on autopilot again. I want you to write in the comments a phrase that reaffirms your decision. Write it as if it were a promise. I will protect my focus no matter the cost. That phrase is not for the algorithm. It is for you. So that when you read it tomorrow, or in a week or in a month, you remember who you are and what you are no longer willing to lose to distraction, because the world will always try to steal your attention. But you, if you want to be truly unstoppable, have to make your focus a wall. One that does not open to noise, nor to tiredness, nor to the momentary desire to give up. And that wall is built today with every no you say to what pulls you away, with every yes you give to what pushes you, with every instant you choose to advance. Even if no one applauds, because that silence, that consistency, that invisible firmness is the mark of men who leave a mark, not for what they shout, but for what they do when the world is silent. And they still keep walking firm, focused, unbreakable. One of the most potent tools a man with an unstoppable mindset can develop is the ability to anticipate his own weak points, not to use them as excuses, but to prepare against them. The average man only reacts, stumbles, falls, and then seeks to understand why. The man with a steel mind, on the other hand, anticipates, knows his patterns, knows his weaknesses, knows at what time of day he tends to give up, knows what thoughts tend to sabotage him, knows what environments make him lose control, and therefore does not let those things surprise him. He confronts them before they appear, deactivates them before they gain strength. Because a warrior does not enter battle without a strategy, and his most important battle is not against the world, but against his old habits, his limiting beliefs, and his past version, the one that still tries to return every time the process gets hard. You have to know your excuses as if they were enemies with proper names, because they are. They are there every day disguised as logic, as tiredness, as entitlement. Just today I'll rest. This isn't that important. I've already advanced enough. I'll do it later. Those phrases sound harmless, but they are what keep you the same. They are small leaks in the ship you are building. And if you do not plug them, no matter how much you advance, sooner or later you sink. That is why you need to anticipate them, write them down, see them clearly, and then write the response with which you will face them, because you cannot rely on willpower when you are tired. You have to have a plan, have rules. You have to create structures that support you even when you are weak. This does not make you a rigid man. It makes you a conscious man. Because self-discipline is not about living in tension, it is about living with power. The power to say no to what weakens you, the power to choose your energy, the power to correct yourself before failing yourself. And that is only achieved by one who knows himself deeply, who is not afraid of his internal darkness, but observes it with honesty and confronts it with strategy. Because it is not enough to want to change. You have to be willing to confront the self that keeps you limited, and that battle is daily. It is not won once, it is won every morning, every afternoon, every night, when you decide to act from awareness instead of impulse. Start now. What are the excuses you repeat most? What situations make you give up most easily? What thoughts usually stop you when you are about to advance? Write them down, not to punish yourself, to prepare yourself, because the man who knows himself is the man who masters himself, and he who masters himself can no longer be defeated by anything external, because he has conquered the hardest part, his own system of sabotage. And when he does that, he no longer needs luck, nor motivation, nor validation. He only needs to be present with a clear plan and a firm decision. That decision that tells your mind, every day you no longer command. The one who decides now is me. And that phrase, sustained in action, is the foundation of an unbreakable mind. An unstoppable mind not only resists pressure, it uses it, transforms it, turns it into fuel, because it understands that every challenge, every obstacle, every uncomfortable situation does not come to stop him, but to polish him. The average man flees from effort, avoids conflict, seeks constant comfort. But the man with a steel mind has reprogrammed his way of interpreting difficulty. He no longer asks, "Why is this happening to me?" But what does this want to teach me now? Because he does not see problems as punishment. He sees them as training grounds, as the exact place where his character is shaped, where his skills are stretched, where his identity is reinforced, and that interpretation makes him indestructible. Because, while others fall under the weight of circumstances, he grows under them. You have to stop seeing challenges as interruptions of the path. Challenges are the path. They are the tests that separate he who wants to advance from he who only says he wants to. They are the doors that only open with courage. And if you are facing something difficult, something that hurts you, that exhausts you, that frightens you, listen, well, that is the exact place where you can transform. Not when everything is calm, not when everything goes as expected, but now, here in the midst of this hard moment. Because there, when the muscle trembles, is when it grows most, when the mind wants to surrender, is when it is trained most, when everything in you wants to retreat, but you take one more step. That is the mark of the unstoppable. You have to do this every day. Choose to bear the weight that strengthens you instead of the one that weakens you, because pain cannot be avoided, but it can be chosen. You can choose the pain of discipline, or the pain of regret, the pain of growing, or the pain of conforming. And the difference is brutal, because one breaks you and the other expands you. One imprisons you in a life that does not belong to you, and the other frees you toward a life that truly represents you. Every day you face the difficult with the right attitude. Your mind strengthens. And the best part is that this power accumulates. What is hard today will be normal tomorrow. What demands all your energy today will be part of your nature tomorrow. Because the pain you consciously go through does not weaken you. It transforms you into a deeper, more solid, more truthful man. So the next time something weighs on you, do not reject it, carry it, breathe it, learn from it, and then continue. Not as a victim who survives, but as a warrior who rebuilds himself. Because you are not here to complain about burdens. You are here to become so strong, so focused, so firm, that burdens become tools, and the world will not be able to break you, not because the world changes, but because you have chosen the hardest path. Grow when it was easier to escape, advance when it was more comfortable to stay, improve yourself when no one else demanded it. That is the steel mind, not the one that waits for things to fall into place, the one that adapts to anything and never stops advancing. A steel mind also knows how to stay focused on what it controls. That is one of the greatest strengths you can develop, distinguishing between what is under your power and what is not, because the weak man wears himself out with the external. He complains about traffic, the weather, others' decisions, the past, the system, things he cannot modify. He spends his energy on what does not depend on him and then wonders why he is exhausted, frustrated, defeated. But the man with an unstoppable mindset knows something others forget. His power is where his responsibility begins, in what he does, in what he thinks, in how he responds, in what he decides. And each day he chooses to invest his mental strength only in that. You have to understand that your attention is a limited resource. You cannot give it away to everything that bothers, offends, or disappoints you. because then nothing remains to build, to advance, to grow. Every time you focus your mind on what is outside your control, you weaken, but every time you return to what you can do, even if small, you strengthen. That is why unbeatable men do not waste time fighting reality. They use it, adapt to it, accept it, and then do what they have to do, because focus is not ignoring the problem. It is directing energy to the point where you still have decision-making power. You had a bad day. Focus on how you will finish it. You received criticism. Focus on what you can learn. Things did not go as expected. Focus on how you will respond. That attitude is what separates you from the average, because everyone can advance when everything flows, but few know how to remain firm when the world seems disordered. And those few are not special. They are simply aware. They have learned to tell themselves, I cannot control everything, but I can control my focus, and that is enough. Do this every day before reacting. Breathe. Ask yourself, does this depend on me? If the answer is no, let it go. If the answer is yes, act, not with rage, not with impulse, with strategy, with a cold mind and a hot will, with clarity that you are not here to be a leaf in the wind. You are here to be a root, to be a rock, to be the firm point amidst the movement. And that kind of presence is cultivated when you stop fighting against the world and start directing your energy toward the part of that world you can still build. Remember, you do not need to control everything to change your life. You only need to control enough and do it every day with firmness, with direction, with discipline, because the man who invests his mind in what he cannot change drowns. But he who invests his mind in what does depend on him becomes the architect of his reality. And that reality sooner or later reflects his focus, because where your mind goes, your life goes. So decide today, are you going to live as a spectator of what you cannot handle, or as the protagonist of what you can transform? The answer to that question will make all the difference. An unstoppable mind is also strengthened by the power of purpose. Without purpose, even the most disciplined effort becomes empty. You can have a perfect routine, solid habits, a clear schedule, but if you do not know why you are doing what you are doing, your internal fire eventually goes out, because discipline without direction does not sustain you. It only wears you down, turns you into an efficient machine. But soulless. And you did not come into this world to function. You came to build something that makes sense. You came to leave a mark. You came to turn your existence into a declaration of what is possible when a man lives aligned with a cause bigger than himself. That purpose does not have to be something gigantic. It does not have to be written on a wall or come in the form of an epiphany. Often it is right in front of you, in the family you want to protect, in the example you want to leave, in the version of yourself you always knew you could be. Purpose is the emotional root of your effort. It is what makes you advance when there are no logical reasons left. It is what lifts you after having fallen for the 5th or 10th time. It is what connects you to the why when the how becomes confusing. And if you do not cultivate it each day, if you do not remember it, if you do not keep it present in your heart and mind, then even the best habits become mechanical and eventually abandoned. Do this every morning. Dedicate 5 minutes to reconnecting with your purpose. Write it, read it, feel why all this is worth it. Ask yourself, what life do I want to live? What legacy do I want to leave? What kind of man do I want the world to remember when I am no longer here? You do not need to have all the answers. You only need one that makes you move. One reason that forces you to get up when your body does not want to. Because when you have a reason, you always find a way. And when the reason is strong, fear becomes weak, because the man who acts with purpose no longer negotiates with doubt, no longer plays half-heartedly, no longer lives by default. He lives with decision, lives with fire, lives with a north that pushes him when his legs fail. Purpose does not eliminate pain. It gives it meaning, does not erase difficulty. It gives direction. It is the anchor that keeps you firm when everything else trembles. And if every day you reinforce it, if every day you remember it, if every day you honor it with actions, then your mind will have no choice. It will become rock, foundation, engine, because you will know you are not doing this just for external goals. You are doing it for something that burns inside you. And that kind of fire is not extinguished by rain. It strengthens with every storm. So today, before ending the day, write it down. My purpose is bigger than my tiredness. Repeat it tomorrow and again the day after. And every time you want to give up, repeat it. Because if your purpose lives, you will also remain standing, firm, focused, unstoppable. A steel mind is RT, not only defined by what it does, but by what it refuses to repeat. Because a man who does not learn from his past is doomed to live it again and again, disguised as new excuses, new scenarios, new names. And if you truly want to be unstoppable, you must have the courage to look at yourself with brutal honesty, to review your history, not to lament it, but to understand it, to chart a new path, to say with firmness, this ends with me. Because it is not just about advancing, it is also about leaving behind what can no longer accompany you. And that implies letting go of versions of yourself that were necessary in their time, but that no longer serve today. Habits, beliefs, ways of reacting, narratives that protected you, but that are now holding you back. You must make self-analysis a daily practice. You must observe your patterns with a magnifying glass. You must ask yourself, without fear, what am I repeating that keeps me stagnant? What part of me refuses to grow because it still feels comfortable with the known? Because growth not only hurts due to the new IT demands, it also hurts due to the old IT forces you to leave. And if you are not willing to say goodbye to those old comfort zones, even if they have been part of your identity for years, then you will never know your true potential, because you cannot build a new life from the same mental structure that kept you limited. A truly strong mind is one that is not afraid of the truth, that does not need to see itself as perfect or always be right, that knows how to say, here I was wrong, here I betrayed myself, here I fell again. And that, instead of hiding behind guilt or shame, rises more conscious, more lucid, more committed. Because every unprocessed error is a wound that bleeds in silence. But every error faced with humility becomes wisdom, and that wisdom, when used every day, when applied with coherence, elevates you to levels you could only imagine before. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be awake. You need to be awake. You need to be so present that you no longer live repeating the script others wrote for you. You need to observe yourself each day and say, today I will not do the same as always. Today I will respond differently. Today I will act from awareness, not from pattern. That is true freedom, not doing what you want, but doing what you need, even if it costs. Because comfort is often simply the familiar, but the familiar is not always right. And a man who wants to advance must stop living by impulse and start living by decision. So before closing the day, ask yourself, what am I holding onto that I should have let go of already? Write it down, decide it, let it go, not as an emotional act, but as an act of maturity. Because your new life does not begin when you achieve something outside. It begins when you stop repeating what keeps you small. And if today you can do that, if you can let go, even if it hurts, even if it costs, even if you do not have all the answers, then your mind will have truly strengthened, because you will have shown you are not tied to your past, you are committed to your future, and that commitment reaffirmed each day makes you truly free. And a free man has no limits. And in the end, what truly makes you unstoppable is not what you achieve, nor what you show, nor what others see. It is the relationship you build with yourself in the deepest part. It is the man you decide to be in secret when no one applauds, when there are no visible rewards. When tiredness weighs, the world is silent, and only your breath and your decision remain. Because that is the final test. Who are you when you no longer have anything to prove, but everything to maintain? Who are you when you could slacken but choose to hold on? Who are you when no one demands, but you still respond as if your life depended on it? A steel mind is not the result of a great moment. It is the result of thousands of moments in which you chose not to fail yourself, where you kept your word, where you did not betray your vision, where you resisted the temptation to go back, to surrender, to hide, to be silent, to stop. Because you knew you were building something that is not seen, but felt. You were building character, creating root, raising an internal structure so strong that not the hardest failure, nor the most painful loss, nor the longest storm could destroy it. And that is what separates you, not your results, not your titles, not your history. It is your presence, your internal strength, your silent certainty that no matter what happens, you will not break. You may bend, yes, But you will not break because you have chosen yourself too many times to abandon yourself again, because you have understood you do not need the world's approval when you have your conscience's approval, because you have looked in the mirror enough to not tolerate a lukewarm version of who you could be. That is being unstoppable, not because everything goes well, but because when everything goes wrong, you continue. And not only continue, you improve, learn, align, sharpen, reconnect, and return stronger, more focused, firmer, like a man who is no longer seeking motivation. He is in motion, he is at war, he is at peace, because he found within himself a source that does not depend on anything or anyone, and that source is activated every day when you choose to continue, when you do not negotiate with the old self, when you do not seek excuses, only paths. Remember this, one day everything will make sense. The falls, the doubts, the silences, the days where no one believed, not even you. One day you will look back and realize it was not luck, nor talent, nor opportunity. It was your daily decision, your invisible discipline, your firmness in the moment when giving up seemed logical, and that day the world will see you as unstoppable, but you will know the truth, that you were the man who built his strength on the days where only you believed it was worth continuing. And that is not taught. It is just chosen, it is trained, it is lived, and you are already doing it.